Saludos, saludos, mi gente. Welcome back to the Latino Dad Connection podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Efrain Reyes, and I am your host of this podcast. Our mission here at Latino Dad Connection is to inspire brown fathers to move forward and create their own legacy. And our vision is to create a comunidad of fathers that are here to support each other through this fatherhood journey. Today, I got the opportunity to talk to one of our sisters, Milagros Ruiz Bello. And just for some context, we host in person circles here in Southern California, in Orange County, in LA County, sometimes in the Inland Empire. And we gather up in person and do this work of healing, do this work of reflecting, do this work of just being a better man, better fathers. And I had the opportunity to co-host a men's gathering, a men's circle with Milagros in Long Beach. And it was a beautiful experience. And in this podcast, me and Milagros sit down and reflect a little bit about that experience and also what does that mean to each of us. So you're not gonna wanna miss this episode. Milagro Ruiz Bello is an intuitive healer. She's an integration guide, ceremonialist, voice activator, sound drum healer, singer, songwriter, author, creator of medicine bags and hand drums. Her mission is to help the collective their being activate their being with their medicine within by guidance of their own intuition and their voice. Remember your true roots. So, without further ado, let's get started with the episode with Milagros Ruiz Bello. All right, welcome, Milagros. Thank you so much for taking time off your day to join us in our podcast. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you um, and talk about the recent men's gathering that we co-hosted and go into a lot of other topics. But before we go into all of that, I would love to give you some time to just introduce yourself, share with the audience a little bit about who is Milagros Ruiz Bello. Maybe if you want to share a little bit about your upbringing and some of the work that you are doing with the community.
Beautiful, thank you. Mi nombre es Milagros Ruiz Bello. I was born and raised in el este de Los Angeles, East LA.
Mm,
Family comes from, my matriarch family comes from Durango. My father's side is pretty scattered. I still haven't narrowed it down, but Baja California and Puebla.
mm,
Uh, what else? I do a lot of work with people, generational trauma. It seems like
mm,
that's what is sent to me. Um,
right.
it's sometimes we we want to focus on one thing and we keep being sent these people with mm, similar traits or similar uh, stagnant energy. Um,
Mm,
I do a lot of I like to help the community a lot. I was a sailor for 5 years. I know Odd from East LA being on boats was one of my passions for a while.
mm,
And it really connected with me. It really built a stronger relationship between my youngest son and I.
mm.
Um, I've also written in two collaborative books.
Mm,
Mm, I was a singer for many years. And I have found that one of the biggest gifts um, is to teach people how to reconnect with their voice. And as I'm speaking to you, there's a hawk flying outside.
mm. Yeah,
So I'm distracted.
what does what does that mean to you? The
Um,
hawk.
the hawk, the hawk is usually, for me, it usually means that I'm on the right path.
Mm, okay.
Confirmation, I'm on the right path.
Confirmation, affirmation. Okay.
Very, very beautiful and strong medicine, beautiful medicine
Mm.
was going on. I'm sorry, squirrel. Um, so that was the main focus. I also help people go through integration and prepare them to sit with certain either plant medicines or get them ready for um like ayahuasca ceremonies, mushrooms. Those are the ones that I'm more familiar with. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I also guide people in making their own hand drums, and I've really tried to honor the ceremonial and sacredness of building building your own drum. So
Yeah.
anything I do, I really try to go with it from a place of holiness, sacredness, because everything is a gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the
Yeah.
first elements I connected with was with wind, which is the voice.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was earth. The third one was water. And now I'm finally connecting to grandfather fire. So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow. Yeah.
so it's you know, try not to focus in one place, but
Yeah, it seems like you're have many gifts, many talents, you do a lot of different things, different gatherings for different communities. I've seen you, do women's circles and circles with children, circles with the LGBTQ community. You really are a multifaceted facilitator, um, a mother, and many different things, a sister to many. Now, so yeah, thank you so much for bringing all of those things, right? All of those conocimientos, those teachings that you have learned from as you go through life, and passing it on to whoever is willing to receive those, right? You
Mhm,
also mentioned something about generational trauma, right?
mhm.
And really healing for that from that, and understanding that a lot of our trauma, really comes from that generational, right? From things that have happened, maybe not even in our generation, but our abuelitos, or things like that. And we have the opportunity now to be able to have the awareness and the time and the space to say, hey, I want to heal this, and I want to do better for myself and for my family. So that's so beautiful. And recently, we had collaborated with a men's circle, and this is a circle that you were able to host us at your home, which is beautiful, and I'm very grateful about that. But this is also a circle that you called in, right? You wanted men to come and heal, right? So my question to you is, tell me about that intention. Why is it so important for you, uh, for you to open up your doors to this type of work, for more men to come into this healing work?
That is a loaded question
That's what we do here at Latino Connection.
with with several answers.
Yeah.
Um, wow, I don't even know where to begin. Okay. So I want to say for almost a year now, I've been really pulled to bring a balance because, holding women's circles and being a part of being an ally to the LGBTQ community, like predominantly we only see women and we go to these fire circles and it's mostly women. Um, there's maybe, if we're lucky, sometimes it's half and there's men in there. Um, but but what I've noticed is, and not just speaking from personal experience, but also from speaking to other women with similar concerns, is that we're doing a lot of heavy work And there are a few men out there that are really truly committing to this.
Mm.
And they're only doing half the work
Mm.
because of whatever fear they have. And for us women, it's really frustrating. Like, and I've had this difficult conversation with you. We can't do it alone.
Mhm. Mhm.
Need a balance. When I first started my healing journey, I was coming from a very broken place, hurt place. I was healing, or I realized that I had a lot to heal because of the abandonment that I went through with my father, the rejection I went through.
Mm.
My father wasn't present. So I was attracting all these masculine roles that were teaching me this very tough lesson, right? So for a lot of us, it's so disappointing and heartbreaking to see that a lot of our brothers are only doing half the work. They they join these groups, these spiritual communities, or these healing communities. Overall, it doesn't have to be within our direct circle. Like I know some people are in the they call themselves healers through music, right? But they're only doing half the work and they're preying on women and with this mask that oh look, I'm doing this work and I'm healing.
Mm.
Well, I'm getting a lot of that. So I really wanted to hold space for the men that feel the need to continue wearing that mask, understanding that they too went through their trauma and that's why they feel the need to walk around with this mask. It's just like us women, for us women that are the strong ones, right? I have to be resilient and I have to be strong and I have to be a chingona, pardon the bad word, but it's the same thing for us. We wear this mask of being a strong woman and we're hurting inside.
Mm.
So
Mm.
and now there's a murder of crows. Um, so finding that balance, I saw that it was needed.
Mhm.
And just as I've broken down in front of women and women have broken down in front of me and in front of other sisters, I and I've seen men that come to the co-ed communities like also have beautiful experiences and feel their emotions and we're here to witness to each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
Looking back at the people that I've been with, being able to recognize and acknowledge that they too went through, that they too went through a trauma due
Yeah.
to their fathers or mothers.
Right.
I was feeling like a really strong pull to be a big sister, if you
Mhm.
will,
Mhm.
or a mother because of the pain. And then realizing and acknowledging that I too have been a cause of the pain or the trauma that my kids carry. And they're both boys.
Mm.
One of them is straight, the other one's queer.
Mhm.
So it all plays this huge role. We're all learning from each other. And see, you always do this to me, brother. You always make me cry.
Mhm. Thank you, Milagros. I appreciate your words, your tears, and your authenticity. And you mentioned the opportunity that we have of bringing balance, and realigning to our true feminine and our true masculine, right? Understanding that we both have both of these energies within us. But oftentimes, because of the trauma or because of our past experiences or our cultura too, the way our cultura is created, there's a disbalance where there's a hyper masculinity or machismo, what we call it, right? And then Marianismo, which is like the idea that women should give everything for the family, right? And should always be be that caregiver and that provider. And
Mhm.
we know that that has created a lot of damage in our families, right? So it's like, how do we come back to working together? How do we come back to alignment into what's true for us, right? And that's going to be different for each family, each person, um, and and just very grateful for having women like you that really care about men's healing, because just like you mentioned, we can't do it alone. Like men cannot do it alone, right? I can't do it alone. I need my big sisters. I need my um, women that are there to really support us. They're there to guide us as well, teach us. And we have received a lot of men actually that come into our community, come as a reference, from women. They share our information, say, oh, my wife sent me, or my sister told me about this, or my mother, different things. I think there's a higher awareness in with women about the importance of healing and maybe emotions, right? And being like really in tune with those emotions. Um, and I think it's just part of being a mujer, and part of it, that's the gift of being that. Um, but we had a beautiful ceremony. We lit up the fire. You were actually, it was such a beautiful moment when Jose started lighting up the fire, and then you also, helped them, and then you started translating. And I just felt like that was such a beautiful moment, right? Where we're like just helping each other and witnessing each other. And then you were able to take that fire with a candle inside your home, as we were doing the inner work outside in the backyard. Um, so tell me a little bit about how was that experience for you? Like just feeling the energy of the men coming in, setting that initial prayer, and then even like taking that fire inside. How was that for you?
Well, first of all, it was so beautiful to be able to be a part of that moment with my brother Jose because we were initiated, and we went through an initiation to Fire Keep Together. So that
Mm,
was beautiful to connect. Um, it was truly a moment of serenity
mm,
to just be, but the translator in me kicked in because I think there was two men that didn't fully speak English.
mm-hmm,
And it was just beautiful. And being able, and a sister of mine who's been a firekeeper for a lot longer than I have, I think for 15 years, I told her that we were going to be having a men's circle, and she was the one that actually told me, take that same fire and take that from the fire outside, take it inside and start the fire in your fireplace.
mm-hmm.
You're working with that same energy. It's the same frequency.
Right, right.
And it was beautiful. I um I started off by crocheting while the fire got started. And once you begin to build a relationship with the fire, and the more you work with fire, you're able to almost communicate with the fire, just like we do with wind and water and the earth. So it was almost like every spark like crackling that the fire would send out. There was somebody I felt there was energy, and a lot of it was like hurt, frustration, and in the heart space. So
Hmm.
being able to hold space in that way without being in the middle of it, without knowing exactly what exercises you guys are doing, because you hold your men's circle differently from what I do my women's circle.
Hmm.
And just being able to be there and feel. And then when spirit, tells me, okay, grab your drum and just drumming lightly. No chanting at first, just drumming really, really lightly. And then a song was sent to me.
Yeah.
And that was the song that I shared at the end.
Hmm.
That, yeah, that was beautiful. And being able to just sit in front of the fire, just sit in front of the fire,
Hmm.
just be with no distractions, nothing around, just being. It was a beautiful experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, and it was a beautiful experience receiving that song at the end. Definitely touched
Hmm.
a lot of the men's hearts with that song. And it felt really genuine and beautiful. And just a reminder to keep our fire, right? Keep our fire burning, to return to love, to return to ourselves. And it was just a
Hmm.
beautiful song. Um, and I always, we have had many men circles, and it's just been men, and that has been
Hmm.
very healing. But there was something different about this circle when we brought you in and really have that representation of the feminine energy. I think for me, it brought up like just the relationship that I have with women, right? And maybe the misalignment on the relationship that I have with women, which I continue to work on every day with my wife, with my two daughters, with my mom,
You're
with my
surrounded by them.
sister. Yeah, I'm surrounded by women.
Bendito entre todas las mujeres.
Exactly, exactly. So, and this was an invitation that we did for the men that were there. Is like we asked, like, what is your relationship to woman or the feminine? And there was a lot of things that were brought up, right? Maybe some trauma, some wounding, as we reflect on that question. So my question to you is, what was the insight that you gained, for yourself as you were, holding space for this circle?
Mhm. As a mother, acknowledging the guilt for being too hard on my kids,
Okay.
for prioritizing um, working or partying,
Mhm.
because I had my kids very young.
Yeah, how old were you when you had your babies?
I My oldest, I had just turned 17.
Okay. Yeah, so you're a very young mother. Hmm.
He's gonna be 30 in January.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I know. I was like, what? 30 years have gone by already. Um, so it was acknowledging that guilt.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I mean. Like we sit in front of the fire. I sat in front of the fire, and these emotions come up.
Mm-hmm.
The guilt of not being there enough,
Mm-hmm.
guilt of being too strict, of using corporal punishment
Mm-hmm.
and forgiving myself for it.
Mm-hmm.
As a sister, the same thing. Man, being afraid of being spanked, so you would blame your youngest brother, so he would take the spanking.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I went through that and I've apologized. One of my brothers is neurodivergent, and
Mm-hmm.
so I can apologize to him, but he probably won't remember why. I've apologized to the other brother below him, like he's 8 years younger than me. I've apologized to him for the crap that I put him through as a big sister. And I didn't grow up with my youngest brother because I had already moved out. He's 19 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So going through all these emotions as a sister, as a mom, and then as a partner,
Yeah.
as a wife. There there's a lot of hurt, and
Mm-hmm.
we're both hurting. Men, women, non-binary, we're all hurting. Okay, so I'm drawing a blank. I went on a rant. What was the question?
So what was your insight that you gained from the circle? And you just talked about some of the emotions that you received, right? During that time. And I actually want to go in a little bit deeper into that, if that's okay with you. I think sometimes when we go through this healing journey, things come up, right, as we reflect on maybe things that we did or we didn't do, and these feelings start to emerge, whether it be guilt, whether it be shame, whether it be different things like that, right? One of the things that I heard recently, or I read it, it was like it's easier to forgive others, but the hardest person to forgive is yourself. Do you resonate with that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the guilt and the shame are so embedded in us
Mm,
by organized religion overall, whether it's Catholic, Christian, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, it doesn't matter. And I mention those because those are the ones that are in my immediate family.
mm-hmm,
I'm familiar with those. I cannot speak for other religions, but those are the ones that I'm more familiar with. Shame, when we understand why they want to keep us in this frequency of shame, because shame is one of the lowest frequencies. In order for us to vibrate at a higher level, we need to forgive ourselves for the shame and the guilt and all that's below.
mm-hmm,
And as an energy healer, I can understand that and see it more and more, and I've learned a lot about it. So it is very important for me to really to really as much as I don't want to do the shadow work, because I don't want to see those ugly faces I wore.
mm-hmm,
You have to go in. You have to go in and dive in. Feel that shame, that guilt, forgive yourself. At the time, you didn't know better,
mm,
right? It doesn't justify or excuse what you did. And a lot of people mistake that, it's a cop out. No, it's not a cop out. It's acknowledging that you really didn't know any better. You were conditioned to think one way, depending on what religion you grew up in or what kind of home you grew up in. You're conditioned to believe one thing.
mm-hmm,
It's like in the Catholic Church, por mi culpa, por mi culpa, por mi grande culpa. It's like they have you beat yourself down. And it's like, why do we have to keep repeating instead of learning about forgiveness to the self? Above
Yeah.
all, forgiveness to the self.
Yeah.
Feel
Yeah. It's like the saying says, right? You gotta feel it to heal it.
it to
You gotta really go through that emotion, right? And oftentimes when we are feeling that emotion, our reaction is to move away from it. But really like going through it and trying to integrate it into who we are, not because we like to feel shame or we like to feel that guilt, but really to understand where that guilt is coming from, right? And if we're able to understand it a little bit better, then like you mentioned, we're able to understand that, we didn't know better, that there was a lot of the things that you were going through were because of different situations in your home. It was not just under your control. Maybe a lot of us were under, far, flight or flight, we're
fight or
very,
flight mode.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
fight or flight mode. And that was our reaction, right? So the key here is like kind of understanding the situation and now understanding where you are now, right? So what do you think? How are some? What are some steps for, or what are some steps that you've taken, or what are some steps that you can share with people about self-forgiveness? Like, what are
Hmm.
some things that have helped you to, to really forgive yourself? Because you mentioned being too strict on your kids, or um, corporal punishment. I'm sure there's a lot of parents that have done that, right? And maybe they look back and they regret it and they're like, híjole, I shouldn't have done that. But that was what you knew at that moment, right? Like we mentioned. But what are some things that you would suggest to to someone that is having a hard time finding self-forgiveness?
Well, one of the things that came up as we were speaking about feel it to heal it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bison, the buffalo, right?
Mm,
And we picture the buffalo when there's a huge storm. What do? They push against the storm, like the wind is coming this way, and they're face down, and they're just going through it, going through it, going through it. Because when you go through the storm, and the storm's moving east, let's say, and they're moving west, that means they're going to get through it faster.
right.
It's kind of like the same concept. We have to feel it to heal it. So for me, going in, when I say going in deep, I mean going in and the remembrance comes of when I threw a shoe at my son and it missed him, but instead of missing him, it landed on his piano and broke one of his keys.
Mm,
That that was the most painful thing I think I've done to my son because the look on his face. That piano means everything to him.
mm-hmm.
So forgiving myself for that was a huge one. It doesn't mean that I'm still buried in that feeling, but it does cause emotion to come up. Have I forgiven myself for that? Maybe not 100% because a part of me still feels like I owe him to fix the piano, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think until that is done, I won't feel completely healed from that. So going in deep, and I know there's concerns around that subject because like you've mentioned in the past, you can take a person into a traumatic state and have
Mm-hmm.
them relive that, right?
Yeah.
but sometimes it's necessary to really get into where that even stems from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to say I've perfected it because I have not perfected it. I'm learning as I go. And for some people it's not good to take them in that deep. But it's almost like you take them on a train ride. Okay, you went through this. Oh, there goes the chancla phase, you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make a stop at every single one of them. You just take them on a train ride, slow and steady train ride.
Mm-hmm.
And when you reach the final destination, which is the starting point of when that trauma came up. And sometimes I've done breath work and I've done some healing with other healing modalities. Sometimes that trauma doesn't even belong to us. It belongs to
Mm-hmm.
parents. And in some cases, we carry these same patterns of trauma. We carry them from different lifetimes, and some people will believe it, some people won't. But I've seen it for myself that I've described a certain situation to somebody about a past life, and they break down in tears. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I went through 10 years ago with my ex-husband, or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like some of these things we carry from previous lifetimes that need to be healed because we carry these inner energetic cords with us. So breath work, I've done breath work to revisit some of these painful situations and to really not just understand where it comes from, because having understanding and comprehension are two different things. So, and with other things, like I've sat with grandmother Aya, ayahuasca, and I've sat with los niños sagrados, the honguitos, the mushroom medicine, uh, to gain more understanding, comprehension, and that knowing that, oh, okay, it makes sense now why I went through this. So fear is always going to be there. Fear is always looking for an opportunity to keep you stuck. Fear and shame. Facing our fears is the bravest thing and the more courageous thing that you'll ever do. Facing
Mm-hmm.
those fears.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And you have to try over and over until you build the confidence to go through the storm. Okay, well, ni modo. We got to do it. We got to do it. We're never done healing and we're never done learning. But the beauty of this work is that once we heal all these broken parts, our families benefit as a whole. 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, and energetically.
Mm.
Once we heal these parts of us that are fearful and shameful, the frequency in our community elevates and we're no longer stuck. And it's not about becoming rich and famous. It's about finding serenity and peace and not seeking validation from other outlets.
Right.
Learning
Mm-hmm.
how to learning how to befriend your ego and learning how to tell your super ego, hey, right now it's not the time, compa, siéntate. You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes we just gotta learn to be
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
there's different ways. So my suggestion is that um I heard this a long time ago, try things at least 2 times.
That's a
And
good idea.
yeah, if something does not resonate after the second time, then maybe that healing modality wasn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel, don't be pressured into trying something just because it worked for your neighbor.
For somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things it might be something different.
Hmm.
That's my rule when it comes to food. I always try everything twice. Because the first time you're kind of like, it's a new taste, you're getting used to it, right? So, and then the second time, if you really like it, then you will
Yep.
like it. If not, then you won't. So
Yep.
that's my rule when it comes to food, and I
That's
love
my rule
food.
with liver. That was my rule with liver. I don't really like it.
Yeah, exactly. No, no, yeah, liver one of those things. Like, oh no, I'll pass on that. All right. So you talked about how, doing the individual work will impact our families, will impact our communities. So I would love to go a little bit more into it. In what ways do you think that this type of healing circles, whether it be like a men's circle or a woman's circle, has an impact in our wider community? How does this have that ripple effect
Mm.
into our wider community?
Compassion.
Okay.
Having compassion for each other. And that was actually one of the insights that I had. If I can go back to where I was holding space for men, compassion kept coming up, love kept coming up, compassion and love.
Mm,
So, compassion, how it's going to benefit us by having compassion for each other, but again, understanding that having compassion does not mean that you're not going to hold each other accountable,
mm-hmm,
that you're going to justify your wrongdoings.
mm-hmm,
You can have compassion for someone and have deep love for somebody de lejitos from afar.
mm-hmm.
Because now you're learning to respect your own boundaries.
Yeah.
How that's going to help the community is by shedding light to these things that we were never allowed to talk about. Women, calladita te ves más bonita. You're better seen, not heard. And for men, you can't show your feelings. If you cry, you're not a man. Men don't cry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like we've all been oppressed in some way. When in
Right.
reality, there is no hierarchy. We're supposed to work in community.
The community. Yeah.
Takes a village. And I'm seeing that more now. Like it really does take a village. We can't do it alone. We can be mom, work a full-time job, take the kids to soccer practice by ourselves, and neither can you. Because there
Mm-hmm.
are people that are there's single fathers out there. It's a lot of hard work. It takes a village.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the biggest lesson for us is to the more we are, the more we heal ourselves and remember the connection to self, the more we can continue to connect with community and it's all going to go and flow.
Mm.
Having a support system,
Yeah.
sometimes our blood family, isn't very good for us. They were meant to be here to trigger us and poke the bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
The communities that we build turn into our familias.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think it's all about like having
Hmm.
that support system, like you mentioned, right? Going through life, and when there's struggles, having people around you that you can call on, ask for help, ask for support. Like you mentioned, we can't do it alone, and it does take a village to to thrive, And I think as Latinos, as Mexicanos, we are really rooted in that familiarismo, right? We really care about our familias, And when I say familias, obviously, your blood familia, but like you mentioned, also our chosen familia, right? People that we really are building a life with. So that is beautiful. Perfect. Milagros, thank you so much for all your wisdom, for all your shares. Is there, well, first of all, I want to ask you, what is the last message that you would like to share with our audience? And then after that, can you please share where people can find you, where they can connect with you, if you have any work or any offerings at the moment?
Sure. Don't give up on yourself. Continue doing this work. And I'm telling you from a place that sometimes I want to walk away from this work. It seems helpless.
Mm,
Watch loved ones not do the work.
hmm
And you want to get caught up again in the worldly things. So, there's the saying, not of this world, that, predominantly is used by Christians. You know what? Spiritual people really resonate with that because we're really not of this world. We're here to learn.
mm,
Don't give up on yourself. Learn to respect your own boundaries and love yourself. Honor yourself, honor your being, connecting with yourself. Um, and there's many ways you can do that simply by taking out walks in nature or singing. I like to sing.
hmm
And you can find me on Instagram. The handle is at con amor milagros. Um, I can send you the link, Efrain, and you can share it in the details.
Yes, I will. I'll make sure to have the link on the show
Mhm.
notes for other people that are going to be listening to this.
Um, you can also shoot me an email at milagrosruizbello@gmail. Um, I do intuitive healing, so it's not like I specialize in just one thing. And I'm completely honest. If I'm unsure of something, I will send you to somebody with more experience. Um, what else? I'll be holding a drum making ceremony in December, so you can check out the form. It's available on my Linktree. I'll be having a full moon ceremony in middle of November as well. I don't remember the date. Um, I'll be having a community healing circle in Rancho Cucamonga, I believe on the 22nd. Um, and I'm off commission on November 23rd because I'm celebrating my 23rd birthday.
All right. Happy birthday.
I'll be 40 something. And just keep an eye out because, I'm always open to collaborating with people that have um, the same path or the same passion. Um, and I'm also here for all communities,
Yeah.
uh, the queer community and the straight community and the men. I'm here for all my brothers and sisters.
Yes, thank you so much. And we also
Oh,
you also have La Plática, which is every
yes.
first Thursday of the month
Yes.
via Zoom.
At 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
There you go. There's
I
a
already got
You
it.
already got it. You already got it. And this
And
is a open dialogue. You want to share a little bit
yeah,
more about that?
yeah, these open dialogues, going through my healing journey and sitting with ayahuasca and being the big mouth that I am, and I'm always asking difficult questions, even when I was a kid, asking the catechist teacher, like, why do we have to confess our sins to a priest when God knows and sees it all already? Like, he knows what we're gonna do before we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of the ayahuasca ceremonies, I brought up the subject of accessibility to the brown and black communities, right? To the BIPOC community.
Mm-hmm.
And the shaman, from Colombia, he danced around the question and I even got kicked off of I even got kicked off of removed from their page because I asked these difficult questions like these are serious questions. Like some people cannot afford $1,200 a month. Not a month, for a weekend to sit with the ayahuasca. So what are we doing to make it more accessible? How can we find that
Mm-hmm.
balance? So yeah, the plática, we go into the difficult subjects and we explore the different perspectives
Yeah.
with little to no judgment, right? And if something's triggering you, then it's an opportunity for us to explore why it's triggering us, right? So yes, these pláticas can be challenging. You're not obligated to show your face. You're not obligated to participate if you simply want to listen. And I'm hoping to create one for women exclusively via Zoom or Gather. I'm not sure yet. That'll probably start next year.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I always try to make these pláticas if I'm available because I feel like you just gain really good insight and an
We
opportunity to share different perspectives, right? And
need your masculine energy, that balance. We need it. We
yeah,
really do need it.
yeah, and it's honestly it's also a space for me to learn more from our hermanas and some of the work that they're doing, and just seeing that like I also need that, right?
Mhm.
So thank you so much, Milagros. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to having many more ceremonies together and keep doing this work together. Muchísimas gracias. Have a beautiful day.
You too.